what's up? Welcome to 3000% Voltron Love with Mel, that make a girl. Today, I'd like to talk a bit about Shiro's Sham with curtains. Now, a heads up, if you love this character and fully support him in a relationship with Shiro, you certainly have every single right to happily do so. In this video, I am only giving my direct, sincere opinion and no shame to you. Enjoy what makes you smile. As for me, I see man as a less than one-dimensional character shoehorned in ways to feign importance. It's a little too difficult to respect what offers nothing in a story full of relationships alongside an ever-evolving cast. My first problem: constantly forcing a character in my face that has zero going on for them does not encourage me to like them. I can always look at a rock or stare at a wall instead on my own by choice, thank you. My second problem: in the midst of all the edits that left giant question marks with Ezor, Zethrid, Shiro, Keith, Alora, and Lotor's stories, we received nothing about Curry's backstory. How he started to fall into like with Shiro, for instance. Instead of pasting him in two places at once, couldn't someone have swapped out Veronica with him when Shiro was uncharacteristically decked across his own bridge? Couldn't Shiro have mentioned Citrus at some point, like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this guy? If he had been crushing on him at the start of Season 8, why couldn't we see Shiro spending time with getting to know him better in Launch Date? There was a perfect opportunity for Curveball to be properly introduced as Shiro's loved one. Of course, it would have contradicted what was said about any relationship scene would have been built up since Season 1, but it still would have shed some understanding that, okay, they like each other, alright. Instead, we see Shiro with Sam and Karan in between a conversation he contributes nothing to. I wonder, was this done just to subtly show why he wasn't with Keith in the scene that follows? If so, what a crude executive decision. It instead shows Shiro wasn't mature enough to talk to his best friend, of whom he had shared some pretty private stuff with already in previous seasons, and even used his bed to get better, and you can't change my mind that wasn't Keith's room he was in, about something they should talk about. This doesn't add up, none of it. To me, it only reads as Sheath being in the way of something that changed after Season 8 had been completed and Ezra and Zethrid needed to be toned down because of the backlash that was in the room for happening in the first place. However, if there was to be some sort of backstory for Curdle, I would decline from wanting to see it now. If it's obvious that consideration was put into an arc that originally did not include Shiro and give him meaning, why was the situation different? I mean, honestly,
Rise from your grave.
Alora could have brought Adam back if it actually mattered that much. And about the whole not able to revive souls thing, it's a teensy bit hard to reset destroyed realities and bringing back planets without, you know, having life inhabiting them. Who revives and restores an empty reality? What's the plot point of bringing back a bleak and desolate planet? Sure, I brought back this reality on these planets, but there isn't any life on them at all. Restore means to bring back what was lost. If a planet of people got wiped out, they must have came back with all the people brought back because otherwise there would be no reason to. I'm pretty sure Alora could have easily brought Adam back. And if this wasn't going to happen in some way, why was Adam's name read during the audio description before it was changed? Purely speculation, but still telling. Of course, Adam's return would have defeated Shiro's entire reason for going into space in the first place and would have rendered his character growth utterly pointless. It has me wonder if the people who actually wanted Adam back even care for Shiro at all, or even care for Shiro with Adam, unless it was keeping Shiro out of the way, like I've mentioned in previous video. It wouldn't have been a very well executed something, but hey, Season 8 exists in the way that we saw it, so pointless things tend to happen anyway, apparently. Oh, but guess what? Had Shiro stayed with Adam, the entire story of VLD would have been completely nullified because this version of Voltron with these characters would never have happened in the way it did. But tell me, why would Shiro, who has grown considerably, even want to return to the one who ignored his heartfelt, "You know how important this is to me," turn the situation on himself to look like the victim so he can control the outcome? Pretty manipulative. Adam was the one who walked out that door. Adam was the one who left this vulnerable man pleading with his heart for understanding. Adam obviously was not suitable for Shiro. They could have just gotten together for the sake of being together. That is a real thing that tends to happen sometimes. Yet we were shown someone in parallel who was suitable for Shiro. So, I refrained from using Kurt Tail's name in this video because there were plenty of opportunities for him to be given at least some kind of dimension to his lack of character. Shiro may as well have married a boulder. At the very least, that has some kind of identifiable characteristics. Ooh, pick up your face! And Shiro is worth far more than that. He was demoted to a side character, and his empty wedding was pure tokenism in my eyes. This tells me Cursor was not only a rushed job, but one without much care too. We can't go the route we originally wanted to, so we need someone for Shiro at the end to prove his orientation. It doesn't matter who now, as long as it isn't Keith anymore. But again, as I've said in an earlier video, I only see the end result and not what actually went on in the studios. Interviews can only reveal so much. Honesty can only willingly cover so much. Like, imagine Allura and Lance on their date, and Lance tells her he loves her, and Allura goes, "You're in love with me? Oh, Lance, that's so sweet, but remember background extra number 15 from 7 seasons ago? He and I have recently been talking about marriage." Then Allura proceeds to marry this rando we have only caught a glimpse of once or twice before the major events of the plot in Season 8 took place. Just imagine her build-up with Lance, their story together just went down the drain. Just imagine that. It would be exactly like my Ariel and Eric example. Like, I'm pretty sure if that happened instead, there would be a huge uproar. Maybe now people will understand why the wedding in the epilogue was so distasteful. To me, that's like, well, Allura doesn't matter to the story anymore, so let's pair her with a random guy just to prove she's into guys. Shiro doesn't matter anymore, so let's pair him with a random guy to prove he's into guys. Let's just defeat the purpose of subtlety and make it super obvious Shiro is into guys. You see where I'm going with this? Is it because if Shiro were made a side character at the very end that he will no longer matter if he's written out with a random? Is that why there's no on-screen build-up for them? Because it would have done nothing for toy sales anyway and Shiro had already run his course? Is that why his and Keith's friendship was ultimately magicked away without showing what specifically happened? They didn't even talk about it when they normally would. The show was ending, and with Keith in his rightful place as leader, it was okay to kick Shiro into the background. No little 6 to 8-year-old boy wouldn't want insignificant gay Shiro now that he doesn't have the Atlas or a lion anymore. So it's okay to slap a nonsensical ending on his story and call it a wrap. Excuse me for caring so much about a character who has broken countless boundaries and who was once given so much life and consideration. Forgive me for allowing myself to be so moved by the direction and writing that made the way for him to cheat death and achieve so much more than what he started out with. What was I thinking, cheering on so sincerely for a remarkable character who is a disabled queer POC that bested all odds against him and is seen as very attractive, incredibly inspiring, and highly loved by most of the fandom despite all this? I love Shiro. I always will. But to just practically write him out of the story with something insignificant that didn't even have a name for 2 seasons destroys his character too. So yeah, when I think of Circle, I'm overwhelmed with feelings of sorrow and defeat. Shiro was dwindled down to nothing. So nothing is what he wound up deserving, receiving, and marrying, right? Can't pair a main with an NPC unless the main became just as useless, right? Sure seemed that way. Kirby could have been done right. He and Shiro could have had an actual story, even despite it spitting in the face of the strongest bond he had for several seasons. There could have been something. But it is far too late for me to ever accept it now. Sure, Caviar May had been right there on the bridge the whole time, but what had he actually done for Shiro? Was all his actual real support done off screen? Was all his encouragement and belief in Shiro happening in secret? Were they ever in a situation where Cottage risked his life to save the man he loved and help remind him that he could do anything and that he was so important to everyone and himself? No, it was Keith who did that, and he did it all on screen and with natural progression. So, Curtains may have been in the same vicinity as Shiro here and there, but he did nothing for him worthy of even a casual on-screen conversation. And certainly not a marriage. Think about it. And that is said with over 3000% Voltron love.